Did you know that $100 in 1970 has the same purchasing power as nearly $800 today? In just a few decades, your money's value hasn't just dipped, it has been decimated. Most people think inflation is a slow leak, but it's actually a silent thief that never sleeps, stealing the hours of your life you traded for that cash. But what if I told you there is one mathematical force so powerful it doesn't just survive inflation, it eats it for breakfast? Stay tuned, because today we're revealing the physics of wealth and why inflation simply cannot touch the unstoppable power of compound interest. We've all heard the warnings. The news is constantly buzzing with CPI reports, rising gas prices, and the death of the dollar. It feels like no matter how hard you work or how much you save, the finish line of retirement keeps moving further away. You feel it every time you go to the grocery store or look at your utility bill. It's frustrating, and for many, it's frightening. Inflation is often viewed as the ultimate villain of the financial world. It's the reason your grandfather bought a house for $20,000 that now costs $500,000. It makes savers feel like they're running up a down escalator, exhausting themselves just to stay in the same place. But here's the secret the wealthy understand. Inflation is only a threat if your money is standing still. If your wealth is stagnant, you are a victim. But if your wealth is dynamic, inflation becomes a tailwind. In this video, we're going to break down the mechanics of wealth. We're going to look at why a simple savings account is a trap designed to keep you poor, and how you can flip the script to make the very math that devalues the dollar work in your favor. This isn't just about saving pennies. It's about building an inflation-proof fortress. We are going to explore the math, the history, and the strategy required to ensure your future self is richer in value, not just in paper. To defeat the enemy, we have to understand exactly how it operates. Inflation is essentially the devaluation of currency. When the supply of money increases or the cost of production rises, each individual dollar buys less than it did yesterday. It's not that the loaf of bread is becoming more valuable, it's that the currency you use to buy it is becoming less valuable. Imagine you have $10,000 tucked under your mattress. You feel safe, because the number isn't changing. But if inflation averages just 3% per year, which is the historical norm, in 20 years, that $10,000 will still look like 10 grand, but it will only buy you about $5,500 worth of goods in today's prices. You haven't lost any paper, but you've lost nearly half your lifestyle. This is the hidden tax that no one votes for, but everyone pays. The biggest mistake people make is thinking they are playing it safe by staying in cash. In reality, cash is the riskiest asset you can hold long term. Why? Because it has a guaranteed negative return. When you hold cash, you are betting against the ingenuity of the entire global economy and betting on the stability of a piece of paper that central banks can print at will. Think about the Big Mac Index. In 1967, a Big Mac cost 45 cents. Today, it's over $5. The burger hasn't changed, the recipe is the same, the money has changed. If your income and your savings don't grow faster than the cost of that burger, you are technically getting poorer every single day. This is the saver's paradox. In a world of high inflation, the people who do exactly what they were taught, save their money in a bank, are the ones who get punished the most. The bank takes your money, pays you a tiny fraction of a percent in interest, and then lends that same money out at 7 or 8%. They are using the power of the spread to get rich, while your purchasing power evaporates. To win the game, you have to stop being the one who provides the liquidity and start being the one who owns the assets. You have to realize that a dollar is not a store of value. It is a medium of exchange. If you store your value in it for too long, it will rot like fruit. Why is this happening on such a massive scale? Historically, inflation and interest rates have a tug-of-war relationship. When inflation goes up, central banks raise interest rates to cool the economy down. In the early 1980s, inflation hit staggering highs of 14%. To combat this, interest rates were pushed toward 20%. If you had money in a certificate of deposit back then, you were winning because your interest rate was significantly higher than the rate of inflation. But today, we live in a different world. For the last decade, interest rates on standard savings accounts have hovered near zero, while inflation has surged. This creates what economists call a negative real yield. If your bank pays you 1%, but inflation is 5%, you are losing 4% of your wealth every year. You might feel like you're earning money because the balance in your app goes up, but your ability to buy a house, a car, or a steak is going down. This brings us to the most important concept in finance, the real rate of return. Most people only look at the nominal rate, the number on the paper, but the wealthy only care about the real rate. The number after inflation is subtracted. If you aren't calculating your real rate of return, you are flying a plane without an altimeter. You might think you're climbing when you're actually crashing into the ground. This is where compound interest enters the chat. Albert Einstein famously called it the eighth wonder of the world, adding that he who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pays it. Unlike simple interest, which only pays you on your principal, compound interest pays you on your principal plus all the interest you've already earned. It is the only force in the universe that can outrun the printing press. Compound interest is an exponential curve. In the beginning, the growth is incredibly boring. It looks like a flat line. You save, you invest, and nothing seems to happen. This is where most people quit. They see inflation rising and their portfolio barely moving, so they pull their money out and spend it. But if you stay the course, something miraculous happens. The snowball effect takes over. Eventually, the interest you earn on your interest becomes larger than your original contribution. Then, it becomes larger than your annual salary. When your money is invested in assets that outpace inflation, like equities, real estate, or productive businesses, the compounding effect begins to accelerate faster than inflation can keep up. Think of it like this. Inflation is a headwind. Compounding is an engine. In the beginning, the headwind feels stronger than the engine. But as the engine picks up RPMs, the headwind becomes irrelevant. The engine eventually becomes so powerful that it doesn't matter how hard the wind blows. The plane is going to reach its destination. The key is understanding that you cannot wait for the wind to stop. You have to build a bigger engine. History shows us that over any 20-year period, the stock market has never lost money when adjusted for inflation. It is the most consistent wealth creator in human history. Yet, people are afraid of the volatility of the market, while they completely ignore the guaranteed loss of their savings account. We have been conditioned to fear the wrong thing. We fear the temporary dip in stock prices, but we should fear the permanent decline of our dollar's value. Now, let's get to the core insight that changes everything. This is the moment where you stop being afraid of inflation. Here is the truth. Inflation actually fuels the assets that drive compound interest. Think about it. When inflation goes up, the price of goods goes up. Who sells those goods? Corporations. When Apple or Disney or Amazon see their costs rise, what do? They raise their prices. Their revenues grow as a result of inflation. If you own a piece of those corporations through the stock market, your asset value and the dividends they pay you naturally tend to adjust for inflation over time. You aren't a victim of the rising prices. You are a partial owner of the entities charging those prices. The same applies to real estate. If inflation causes the cost of timber, bricks, and labor to double, what happens to the value of an existing house? It goes up. What happens to the rent the landlord can charge? It goes up. This is why the wealthy love hard assets. They know that inflation is just a transfer of wealth from those who hold currency to those who hold assets. Let's look at the hard math of the win. Over the last century, despite 2 world wars, dozens of recessions, and periods of hyperinflation, the S&P 500 has returned an average of about 10% annually. Even if we subtract a high average inflation rate of 3 or even 4%, you are left with a significant real return. Let's run the numbers for a regular person. If you invest $500 a month at a 7% real return for 30 years, you end up with approximately $600,000 in today's purchasing power. But in nominal dollars, the actual number you would see on your bank statement 30 years from now, it would be over $1.1 million. Inflation is moving at a linear or slightly staggered pace. It goes up by a few percent here and there, but compound interest is moving at an exponential pace. In a race between a runner, which is inflation, and a rocket ship, which is compounding, the rocket ship might start slow on the launch pad, but once it clears the atmosphere, the runner can never catch up. The gap between your wealth and the cost of living doesn't just grow, it explodes. This is why inflation can't touch compound interest. Because if you are invested correctly, The very thing that makes life more expensive for everyone else is making your assets more valuable. You are effectively shorting the dollar and longing human ingenuity. You are betting that companies will continue to find ways to make a profit and that people will continue to need places to live. As long as those two things are true, compounding will always outpace the devaluation of currency. To wrap this up, let's look at the 3 unbreakable rules for making your money inflation touchless. If you follow these, the headlines about inflation will stop causing you stress and start looking like opportunities. Rule number 1, stop hoarding cash. You've heard me say it before, but it bears repeating. You need an emergency fund, 6 months of expenses in a liquid account. That is your insurance policy. But anything beyond that is a melting ice cube. Every day that money sits in a standard savings account, it is losing its energy. Think of your money as stored energy. You want to put that energy into a battery that grows, not one that leaks. Rule number 2, seek real yields. Stop looking at the interest rate and start looking at the spread. If a bond pays you 5%, but inflation is 6%, that is a bad investment. You are paying for the privilege of losing money. Always ask yourself, will this asset be worth more in terms of loaves of bread in 10 years than it is today? If the answer is yes, you are on the right track. Rule number 3, time is your only truly scarce resource. The compound in compound interest requires time to work its magic. You cannot rush the exponential curve. The greatest regret of most investors isn't that they didn't buy the right stock. It's that they didn't start 10 years earlier. The earlier you start, the more insulation you build against the rising costs of the future. A 20-year-old who saves a small amount will almost always beat a 40-year-old who saves a large amount, simply because they gave the math more time to defeat inflation. Managing your savings effectively isn't about being a genius or a math whiz. It's about a fundamental shift in mindset. It's moving from a saver who fears losing money to an investor who understands how to harness the physics of the economy. Inflation is a wave. If you stand still in the water, it will crash over you and pull you under. But if you have the right board, the right assets, and you start paddling early enough, you can catch that wave and let it carry you to a level of wealth you never thought possible. Remember, the goal isn't to have $1 million. The goal is to have the purchasing power that $1 million provides. By focusing on compound interest in productive assets, you ensure that no matter what the central banks do, no matter how many trillions of dollars are printed, your standard of living remains secure. You aren't just surviving the economy, you are mastering it. So, what's your strategy for beating inflation this year? Are you moving into index funds, real estate, or perhaps investing in your own skills to increase your earning power? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing your perspectives. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of intentional builders. I'll see you in the next one.